Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to this webinar hosted by Keansa Solutions and Just Perform. This covers a very realistic topic, which is very it's a topic of great relevance, which talks about realistic scenario building for new age supply chain planners. So, welcome you all to the webinar. Um, First, just a couple of introductions on what Keansa as a company is, and then on Just Perform. So, Keansa is a boutique consulting firm founded in 2015. We have more than 25 existing customers in APAC, EMEA, US, and UK. 70 plus projects delivered across different industries. As you can see, a wide range of industries and for global companies. Um, the value that we bring into the customer is that the way business performance is measured, the way it is planned, the way companies set themselves a goal and set themselves up for success, often involves many manual, cumbersome tasks. Now we are trying to bring in the technologies that replace those manual tasks so that people can actually use their wisdom and intelligence to do things more rationally with more thought rather than just collecting data. So much of this static processes that you will see are now getting replaced with becoming more seamless, more real time, and bringing agility, and especially which is very relevant in the times of uncertainty that we see around ourselves. So the four areas of focus for Keansa is primarily process consulting around sales and operations planning, financial planning, accounting, and consolidation, where we have subject matter expertise. We also do implementation of cutting edge technologies at our customers to improve these business processes. We also do application support for the long-term value gain of our customers. And then, of course, we also take care of providing staff to augment in-house capabilities at our customers so that they can form domain expertise and technology center of excellence, and of course, cap it up all with training. So that is in a nutshell about Keansa as a company. You can find out more about Keansa in our website www.keansa.com. So I'll hand it over to my colleague Victoria from Just Perform.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So thank you for joining us today. My name is Victoria, and I'm the account executive from Just Perform. So let me take you through Just Perform story in a nutshell, who we are and what we do, and how we can help you to achieve seamless supply chain and operational planning to make smarter decisions with our platform. So basically, we are headquartered out of Singapore. We are an 8 years old company. So for supply chain planners, the complexity of managing various scenario planning requires a solution that simplifies and streamline all these processes. This is where Just Perform comes in to help supply chain planners like you on our next generation unified cloud native and no code platform designed to meet your needs. So what does it mean when I say a next generation unified cloud native no code platform? So when we are a unified platform, in all aspects of your supply chain planning, be it from capturing your need for demand, supply, or operational needs, we are integrated into one single platform, eliminating all the need for multiple systems or modules. Native, this means that the platform is able to scale effortlessly to support dynamic supply chain operations, ensuring your needs are not just met today, but your future needs as well. And what our customer actually love about us the most is that we are a no-code platform. This actually gives them the power to adapt and customize processes on your own without relying on IT, giving you the full agility and control over your supply chain planning. So with Just Perform, supply chain planners gain a robust and user-friendly solution to align with your operation needs and hence reduce inefficiencies and drive better business outcomes. So our foundation is built on deep expertise and proven results. As you can see on the slide, our platform has driven more than 60 billion in annual budget and delivered 160 billion in consolidated financial statements. So in the context of supply chain planning, we have delivered over 200 plus successful projects globally, spanning across various planning, consolidation, and reporting processes. So who's behind this innovation of this platform? Just Perform was developed by a team of experts with over 150 plus years of combined experience in the field. And with such expertise, you are partnering with a solution that guarantees reliability, precision, and long-term success. In terms of our presence, Just Perform's impact and reputations are recognized globally, even though we are a young and upcoming company. We have multiple analyst recognition. Some of the names you can see here, such as Gartner, we have earned a customer first badge on Gartner Peer Insights, reflecting our exceptional customer ratings and satisfaction by our customers, as well as BPM Partners, a consulting firm that specializes in evaluating all performance management solution in the field. And we are recognized as outstanding in terms of ease of use, which is especially crucial for supply chain teams in adapting technology to manage their complex operations, as well as G2, a peer rating platform, and we have been given top ratings on it as well, reinforcing our focus on simplicity, usability, and excellence. Our success is also amplified by our global partner ecosystem, and Keansa solution here today, the team over here is one of our key partners. Together, we have worked on several supply chain management projects and combining with Just Perform's intuitive platform with and also Keansa's expertise in SNOP to deliver strong value proposition to our customers. In addition, we also run customer success programs where selected lighthouse customers work closely from the ground up with our product team to enhance their outcomes and experiences. And these partnerships and programs reflect our commitment in delivering a world-class customer-centric implementation and support with every project that we deliver is SLA driven and outcome based. Even though Just Perform is relatively young, we also are proud to support some of the world's most prominent and large organizations. As you can see, we have VinFast, a leading EV manufacturer company, and also part of Vingroup, Vietnam's largest private conglomerate across the globe, driving innovation in the automotive and technology sectors. They are using us as part of their digital transformation projects. Keppel Land, a familiar household name in Singapore, which is in the real estate company, known for its cutting-edge urban developments as well as sustainable living solutions. Century Pacific Food, Philippines' largest food manufacturing company, as well as Goodback, a global leader in the supply chain and logistics. So as you can see, we support customers from mid-sized companies all the way to big conglomerate like VinFast. So these partnerships with Just Perform delivers value to some of the world's largest and most dynamic organizations with rapidly expanding customer base. We continue to empower businesses globally to achieve operational excellence and strategic success. Next slide, please. So the key takeaway is that Just Perform is a platform where we are unified, no-code platform that empowers organizations and supply chain planners to plan together, integrate demand, supply, and operational planning all in one platform for better collaboration and alignment. Close faster, which means streamline processes to reduce your cycle times and improve efficiency and accuracy, and to ensure precise real-time insights for all your stakeholders. And lastly, to decide confidently with all your reliable data all in one platform in place, you are able to make real-time strategic decisions that drive supply chain success. So I'll pass my time back to Sabadit to take you through the Keansa solution and how they can help in this space.
Thank you
Great,
so much, Vic.
great. Thank you. Thank you, Victoria, for that quick brief about Just Perform. We'll be also diving deep into the platform into the later part of the webinar. Now, let me introduce to the panelist of the webinar. We have Sarbajit with us. So Sarbajit is the co-founder of Keansa Solutions, and he serves as a head of consulting and COO with us. With over 2 decades of experience in APM space, Sarbajit has been instrumental in driving global adoption of innovation enterprise planning solutions just across industries and geographies. His work emphasizes creating impactful technology frameworks for business efficiency, particularly in India and across APAC region. He's passionate about collaborating with industry leaders to enhance solution offerings and meeting ever evolving organizational needs for the enterprise performance. So, I would like to welcome Sarvajit
Thank
today.
you.
We also have Swati with us. Swati is an EPM consultant at Keansa Solutions. She brings over a decade of cross industry experience with deep insights into operational challenges and emerging technologies. Swati has strong grasp of business process, morely with regard to intricacies and the critical role of strategy decision making in driving success. So, I would like to welcome Swati also. Welcome,
Thank you.
Sarvajit and Swati.
Thank you,
So,
Shreya.
just want to give a quick information to all the participants as well. If you have any questions, please drop it in the chat box. We'll be taking it to the later part of the webinar. So, without much ado, Sarvajit, over to you.
Thank you so much, Shreya, for the welcome. Thank you everyone who have joined this webinar today, and thanks for the opportunity provided to me and Swati to cover this very interesting subject. So before we jump into the suggestion of the need for new tools and solutions for um, the new generation supply chain planners, let's first spend a minute on what traditionally supply chain planning has been about. So it's a very interesting and complex role, which requires people in playing this role to cater to the market and customer demand efficiently with the resources that they have, which includes the monetary resources. So it basically is about handling demand, supply, and finance. Now, the key things which they are looking at to control this and to make them successful are to be able to do the demand prediction very accurately, and then look at the resources that they have and use them efficiently, and then also have contractual controls with the suppliers and the extended network. So in a nutshell, it's about predictability, it's about control, it's about efficiency. Now, if we are proposing that there needs to be a way to relook at this, are we proposing that all that supply chain planners have been doing has gone obsolete? Well, the answer is no. That's not really what we are trying to propose. There is much merit to what they're doing. But what requires, given the times that we are, is that these capabilities and methods have to be augmented with certain other additional tools, which is necessary given the place and time we are living in. So I'll move on to making a justification for that. So the screen that you see over here is a headline grab of a supply chain management review magazine, which is quite recent, June 2024, about a few months ago, which has a very interesting title, which says, "Predicting the future is impossible." And so the focus needs to be on mitigating risks and building resiliencies. Now, if you look at a couple of things in here, where in the box below, it talks about a couple of things, which says supply chain risk is ever present. So the risk is not going to go away. And the world is becoming increasingly connected. The number of factors that can plunge the supply chains into chaos are rising exponentially. So there is a greater chance and greater probability that if you have a global business, you will be hit by global events that are happening. And then we seem to exist in a perpetual state of disruption. So disruptions are not going to end, they are going to perpetuate. It depends on the type of disruption that's going to happen and where it's going to happen and how it affects your supply chains. So that's the reason why they are proposing that there is organizations, apart from doing forecasting and optimization, they need to have different types of scenario planning. So that's where the proposal of a plan A and plan B. Now let's take one part of it which talks about an increasingly connected world. So let's examine that by looking at a couple of popular products that we kind of are very familiar with and maybe using in our day-to-day lives. So first one is a global supply chain of the Levi's straw denims. Now, if you look at this slide and you look at on the left-hand side all the different materials that go into making the denim that we wear, and you look at the boxes on the right where it connects to the countries from these are sourced, And if you're plotting these countries in your mind, you will actually see that it covers a vast region of the world. And it means that anything happening in these countries, whether it's a geopolitical event or a natural calamity or a societal problem, there could always be a repercussion on this particular supply chain, right? I will take you to another one, which is quite popular, is the Starbucks. So the coffee that you're drinking is often, actually quite global in nature, because the beans come from somewhere, the syrups come from somewhere, the choco, sugar, even the cups, the machines, they all come from different places. And you know that, it applies that anything that is happening in this large world, it might have an impact on this supply chain. Now, why is it such a big impact? It's because, when you are into a global trade system, you are actually looking at sourcing from different countries, moving goods through different geographies, over oceans, across ports, across, different infrastructures, right, which you cannot control directly. So you are actually dependent many times on third-party logistics, the country-specific rules and regulations, and of course, Mother Nature, right? So there is so much which we have become increasingly dependent on that control the way things happen, and then we cannot control everything because we are a tiny part of that ecosystem. So that covers, gives an evidence of how these connected supply chains are and kind of disruptions that can happen. We notionally understand that disruptions can happen, but what type of disruptions can happen? Now, if you look here, you're actually looking at a World Economic Forum report, which classifies the different events, which are risk events that are there that can occur at any point of time, which organizations are exposed to. You are looking at the likelihood or the probability. So these are sorted by the probability. The number one on the probability is extreme weather, because this is something which affects both demand and supply in any kind of business environment, right? So going down from there to things which have lower probabilities. And then the other factor is the risk categories that you see here, which talks about 5 different risk types: economic, geopolitical, societal, technological, and environmental. So these are different types of risk categories depending on what causes these events. And the bar below, which actually talks about what is the likely short-term impact. So certain events can have a very high short-term impact, but they don't last longer. For example, it's an extreme climatic condition like a storm passing by can be very disruptive, but it may not last for a long time. Versus there could be a very seasonal thing like a drying up of a river, right, or a canal, right, and you would actually know that it is not like it hits you on the face immediately, but you know that for the long term you need to find alternatives. So there are different impact horizons. So this slide actually tells you how to look at risk that can affect your business. Now we will go forward and see with some real life events that have happened recently, which demonstrates that how supply chains can be very easily affected, and how much control really do supply chain planners have. The first one that I picked up is U.S. port labor strike, which happened on the east coast of the United States in just last month in 2024 October. Now, what happened there is the workers demanded wage increase and limiting automation so that they have job security. About 40,000 plus port employees, they stopped working. And, those ports were absolutely on the standstill because they could not operate. Now, impact has been that because there was no transaction happening and everything was a standstill, the US East Coast which also affects the Gulf they were completely shut down. Every day there were reported losses of $2+ billion, which is quite significant. And but the horizon of the impact was short because negotiations between the unions and the government eventually were able to resolve the conflict. But if your supply chain has anything to do with that region during the time, you possibly had very little control. I'll go to the next example. We go to the Red Sea, right? Now, this area, as you know, is a war zone, right? We all want it to be peaceful very quickly. But then, as you know, we can't do much about it. So you see Iran and Israel in war. You have the Yemeni Houthis attacking ships. So what it has resulted into is that people who specifically use that route, if you look at the position of that place geographically, you have the Suez Canal, so which actually connects the eastern part of the world of the map, right, with Europe. So Asia and Europe, a major connectivity link is that, and that is disrupted because of all this the war situation. So to avoid that, people are actually taking longer routes. The shipping lines, say here in the map, on you're seeing the plot on the left hand side. You are seeing cargo going from the Ningbo port in China to Rotterdam in the Netherlands. So if it is taking the route through the Red Sea and Suez Canal, it is much lesser of a day, of a 25 days trip. Versus if it is actually going through the Cape of Good Hope, which is surrounding Africa, then it actually takes 34 days. So there's a 9 days addition already if you take the route, and it does not come free, right? There is extra charges and costs that are involved in shipping in a longer route. There is also delay. So, and then how much control do you really have on the war? You can't do much. You have to just see how to have alternative transportation mechanisms, multimodal transports, or other routes, and you can't do much about of this geopolitical event that is happening. Moving on, now we move to Singapore. Now here, this port is a very important port in Asia and the world, one of the largest transshipment ports. Now this has a congestion event, which is also ongoing at this point of time as we speak. The problem here is that it's related to the issue in the Red Sea, right? So people are taking a longer route to move things around. When that happens, organizations and businesses, they would try to stock up their material because the lead times have become longer. You have to store more material to service your customers. So when you have to stock up more, you have to move more material. And if you have to move more material, they will all have to go through ports, most of it. Now, Singapore being a transshipment port, what it means is a lot of cargo consolidation happens in Singapore, meaning small cargoes come from different locations, they get consolidated, aggregated, and rerouted from Singapore. Now, because of more cargo movement, Singapore is seeing a lot more, cargo moving into the ports, which it doesn't have capacity for. So ships are waiting in the harbor for 2+ days to berth, and it means that there is a lot of wait time, increasing the delay of getting the goods unloaded and loaded, and taking time means it's also time is money. So there is a cost to it and there is a delay to it, which the supply chains have to kind of face. They get impacted by that. Now the horizon of impact, it's expected that by 2024 end, this situation will normalize. Reason being, there are alternative routing through Malaysia and India that are being considered, and as they get implemented, this condition might get a bit eased. So this is the situation here, but if you are a supply chain planner, once again, you will have to have alternative methods because you cannot do directly anything to control the situation. Then we move, almost circling the world, back to the Panama Canal in here, where you see that there is because of an environmental issue, you are seeing that the navigability of that Panama Canal, which is a key connection between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, that getting dried up, and there is a 40% reduction in traffic because of the reduced water levels. Now what is happening here is that the ships cannot pass through quickly, they have to move in slowly. The wait time of ships over there that are queued up has gone up from 3 days to 15 days. And the priority queues, which are reserved for the ships to pass through, they are being auctioned, meaning now shipping companies will actually have to pay more to get through if they want to get through quickly. And where does the cost go to? The costs are transferred to people who are shipping. So that means the shipping costs have increased. Now the horizon of this impact is quite long because it's a climate and environment driven situation. It can worsen over time. So if you're a supply chain planner, you might have to think through how to handle this on the long term because you don't have any direct control on the environmental factors. So with this, I'll come to the last one, which is kind of across the board, right? Which means this is something that happens globally. It's not a regional event. And it's a human-induced event actually. It's the tariff and non-tariff measures, which means governments, to protect their own domestic industry and markets, they could actually impose tariffs or higher tariffs actually, which are higher rates of certain taxes which you are imposing on goods, and that increases the prices of the commodities that you are getting. So if you are purchasing certain things from outside, its cost could go up. And if you're selling, your cost could go up as well. So basically, it puts a cost pressure, and it's an economic type of issue. You can't do much in these situations because the government decisions, whatever be their reason, there's nothing much you can do to influence it directly, right? So you have to do something. Sometimes there are benefits also, like if you have a free trade agreement between different nations, it could also make it easier. You could have you find an alternative source where you get your things cheaper, right? So it can work both ways, but it's still a risk. So I think with all these examples, we are very clear in terms of the need of these different supply chains that are widely connected, and they have the different types of risks that can influence them. And with some examples, we've seen that they can, you don't really have much control on it. Rather than you have to also always have an alternative plan, because going back to that article, it says that you are always in the state of permanent disruption. So now what it requires is resilience, means things will happen, but how do you kind of rebound out of it? How do you have a better mechanism to deal and respond to changes? Now that is where you have a necessity versus capacity, meaning there is a necessity that is felt by all organizations. Like the data points over here from the Deloitte survey is that 77% of these companies, which are large multinationals, they feel that their supply chain are susceptible by supply chain risks. They have very strong chances of getting affected by something happening anywhere in the world. But only 22% of them actually think that they have a mechanism to counteract on the risk and have the resiliency necessary to reduce business impact, right? So there is a necessity, which is 77% felt, but the capacity is only available at 22%. It means these organizations definitely require certain additional assistance to be able to get them to a stage where they are able to counter these issues with more clarity, more speed, more agility, right? So one of the things that we can do, there are many things that they can do, but one of the powerful tools from a planning perspective is to be able to build out scenario management, right? And be able to look at plan A, plan B, plan C if necessary, and see what can go wrong. And if something happens, what are the possibilities that can emerge out? What should be our responses to it? And what will be the impact on our business KPI? So the conceptual model for scenario planning is represented in this diagram. It starts with the context. For example, you need to understand what is the business problem that you want to solve. For example, it could be a problem of price rise. It can be a problem of spiking demand. It can be a problem of shrinking supply, right? But it will be playing in a particular business context. Now, to be able to build out scenario and make use of it properly, you need data which are connected to these business contexts. It could be inventory data, it could be production data, it could be lead time information, it could be cost information, etc. Right? So whatever you need to build out those scenario. Now the model part of it is the interconnectedness of the assumptions in the drivers, like what affects what else, right? So all those things connected together is giving you a model. And these are the model actually drives, if you are putting in these inputs, the different scenarios unfold in front of you. That takes you to the decision, where you're making a decision during the scenario analysis. Now, very important thing as a follow through of the decision is the rationale, because people often forget. So when you are making a decision, you also need to capture the reason why you have made that decision. What were the because in an uncertain world, things can always change day after tomorrow. So the decision, the sanctity of the decision, the life of the decision could be something which is always questionable. Things can always change. But at any point of time, whatever you felt was best, within your understanding and the data points, you made those decisions, and hence those rationales have to be captured for posterity, so that you can go look and see why you had made a decision and maybe correct your assumptions and thought process for the later cycles. And finally is the response, because all that we are trying to do over here, all this thing of the exercise comes down to execution. It comes down to how we respond to the real situation on the ground, right? Because if we are not able to respond, the reality is happening on the ground. The response also should happen on the ground. So to translate the chosen plan to executable steps is crucial, and that is something that is the final response, and that is setting us up for either success or failure, depending on how well we are able to execute the plan. So this is pretty much, bringing you from the context of the uncertainties of the world, the need for different set of tools for supply chain planning in the new world, and scenario management as one part of that solution. I come towards the conclusion here and would like to pass it on to Swati now. I'd like to invite Swati and take it over from here to show you in a realistic case that she has built for you how scenario management can be put to practice. So over to you, Swati.
Thank you so much, Sarbajit, for taking us through the dynamics of the supply chain industry and showing us different cases of volatility and uncertainty in this fast-paced world. So traditional planning methods generally fail to respond quickly to unpredictable situations. So that is where enterprise performance management tools transform how companies are tackling the demand and supply situations in this unforeseen situations. So the EPM tools bring in an integrated planning platform where it brings together the finance, operations, and sales. It allows us to get to make real-time scenarios, to simulate various what-if situations, and take proactive decisions based on some data-driven impacts, and understand what is the overall revenue impact based on the different key parameters, which allow the planners to take proper decisions to keep the business going. Next slide, please. So today I will be talking about Just Perform, which is one of our premium EPM tool. And I will be talking about a small business model and a use case going forward, and how we deal with the planning and scenario modeling in the Just Perform platform. So today, our business model, we are going to consider the fashion and apparel industry. So we all know that we all want to be very trendy and be in pace with the global trends. And the fashion industry is also very seasonal. So the trends change based on some dynamic situations, and we also have a lot of weather conditions which impact the demands go up and high, or sometimes fall low for a particular product. So today we'll be talking about the fashion and apparel industry. So our company in hand has a lot of different clothing types. They are into business wear, sports wear, active wear, winter wear, etc. They have a manufacturing unit in Indonesia, and they do global shipping across Japan, South Korea, US, a lot of EU countries, and APAC. So today we'll be specifically talking about the winter jackets sale, considered sale in South Korea. So allow me to share my screen and take you to the Just Perform page. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the Just Perform screen. Before I get into the deep discussion, I would like to familiarize with what the CPM tool does, what are the different capabilities, and just a little walkthrough of what all are there in the screen. So we have firstly the point of views. We can select our product. We can select our location. So we are talking about demand planning at South Korean location. So I'll be selecting Jeonju would be my country, my location at consideration. I would be talking about winter jackets. So there is a product selection here. We are currently in the quarter 4, so I would be selecting the time horizon as quarter 4. We can do some selections here based on what the kind of category that we're getting into. Do we want to check the plans, the actuals, the scenario analysis, etc.? So this is a little detail of what are the different planning modules available in this sales and operations planning platform. So we can do demand planning, production planning, inventory planning, create some scenarios, which I will talk about in detail. So Just Perform is a very user-friendly and intuitive platform which connects easily with any ERP tool. And it also can integrate very easily with an Excel sheet. So you can upload data from an Excel sheet, like just click and paste, or you can directly integrate with any ERP tool seamlessly. So let's get into what the different planning modules are. So our winter jackets at Jeonju, we will be doing first the demand planning. So demand planning is very important for a robust sales and operations planning to take place. And so the Just Perform platform uses AI-driven statistical modules, methods to forecast demand across a certain time horizon using historical data. Now, this historical data can be pulled in from your ERP. Or the actual historical data for a set time period can be pulled in, and based on certain algorithms, the system forecasts what's the plan projected for the coming period, and based on certain accuracies, and the system picks in the best fit algorithm and gives us a statistical forecast. Now, just a system forecast would not really bring in the trends and the patterns that are there for a planning. So we really need an input from the sales teams, so that there is a sales forecast section here where the sales team can input their projected numbers, and based on which we come up to a consensus demand plan. So this is our final consensus demand plan for our winter jackets for quarter 4 in Jeonju. We also have a certain graphical representations where you can see the trends and how the demand forecast comparison is with your statistical forecast and your final consensus demand. Now let me get into the production plan. Production plan is all about making your product available on time, in full, and in a very cost-effective way. It is very important to plan our product, plan to produce our product and make it available ahead of time, so that we have some scope for adjustments into the plan and also can do some resource allocation accordingly. So today we will be in the product that we have, winter jackets, which is going to be manufactured in Indonesia. So we have selected the location as Jakarta here. So this is at a plant level. So the plant at Jakarta, this is the planning production plan. So we have the production orders which are coming in from our demand plan. So I would like to add here that each of our planning modules are interconnected, and they're very dynamic. And if there is any change in a particular plan, we can modify it, and the entire set of plans can also be modified accordingly. So we also keep in consideration certain unfulfilled back orders, which might lead to the increase in production. And so this is our final production plan that is there for this set of time period. It is very important to keep in consideration the lead time. So lead time is basically your time required for your manufacturing, for your raw material procurement, and transportation of the finished good. So in our case, we are considering a lead time of 4 weeks. So that means if I have a demand requirement, say in week 14, I would have to go and do my production plan at week 11 itself. So let's now talk about the capacity. So each plant has its own maximum capacity capabilities. So it is very important to make sure that our plan is in line with the capacity utilization in order to avoid over and underproduce, which will have a financial impact. So here you can see that in this model, if there is any when if there is any production plan which is overshooting the capacity utilization, it throws a certain alerts that probably in week 17 you looks like you are producing more, and it might lead to an additional production cost. So this gives us a visibility, gives the planners a visibility to go and check if the demand is really high, and do we need to go and overproduce and take that extra shot to meet the demand requirement, to have a proper demand and supply balance. Some graphical representations here also show us comparison of the total production, the capacity, and how the dynamics are. I would want to show in a little feature here of this Just Perform platform. The graphs are very dynamic, depends on the requirement of the planner. They can go and select whatever they want to check here, and it will dynamically go and change. This is how it is. So now we have our demand, we have our produce. Now let's go and talk about inventory planning. So inventory planning is done at a warehouse level. So in our case, the production from Indonesia is shipped across to global locations, where each location there is a warehouse or a distribution channel where the product is stored, right? And it is generally sent across to your retailers for your point or to your point of sale. So in our case, we will be considering South Korea. So there is a warehouse in South Korea where the jackets are kept in. So this is the inventory plan. So basically, inventory plan talks about the management of your stock at a particular for a particular product at a warehouse, and to also prevent the overstocking or stock outs, and we ensure optimal balance. So here our consensus demand plan is coming in from the demand planning module. We need to keep in consideration certain buffer stock, the safety stock, and which so finally we have our total inventory requirements. We This is a basic inventory planning module where we keep in check what are we starting with, the beginning inventories. The supply receipts is coming in from our production plan. And finally, do we have enough supply to meet our demand? So here, if there is a negative inventory, that means that we are not able to meet that demand requirement for a particular time. So that means there is a loss of sale. So it is very important for planners to understand if there is a situation of loss in sale, because it has a huge financial impact. Now let me also show you these little graphs which give a visibility to the planners to understand how the warehouses are working, what is the plan at an inventory. Now, with an understanding of what demand planning is, production planning is, and inventory planning is, let's get into our specific use case. So consider a situation where we have an unexpected demand surge of winter jackets in South Korea due to an early onset of winter. So that means there is a huge demand spike, and we need to tackle this situation with the lowest financial impact and highest customer satisfaction. We need to meet this demand on time and full. So what would be the probable solutions to meet this high surge in demand? So as planners, I think the best solution, the first solution that comes to a planner's mind would be to go and do a production increase. Definitely, that is one of our solutions to meet the spike in demand. But how does it impact our key performance indicators? And is that the best fit decision to tackle this situation? There could be another possible alternative, which would be maybe moving in some stock from a nearby warehouse. Say, for example, in our case, our product is also shipped to locations like Vietnam, and Vietnam does not have a high impact of seasonality on the winter jacket sale because it's a not a very high demand product in that location. So without affecting the inventory balance at the other location, and if there is not a huge financial impact or disrupting the demand supply balance at the alternate location, we could do some stock transfer. So let's understand how these solutions would be useful to tackle this scenario, this situation in hand, which is a high surge in demand in South Korea. And let's understand, based on certain analysis, what would be the best fit solution for us. So this is our scenario planning, scenario modeling sheet of Just Perform. So let me take you through briefly on what is written over here. What are the different parameters we are considering? So we are pulling in the demand plan, the production plan, and the inventory details from our initial planning. So what I did, I pulled in our plan data into the scenarios. So we will be creating three scenarios here. Scenario A would be doing a stock transfer. Scenario B would be doing a production increase. And scenario C would be a hybrid approach where we blend in both solutions possible. So before doing that, first we copy our original plan from our demand plan module, from the production plan and the inventory plan module into the scenario building page. So once our plan is in place, let's go and alter what we think, what we envisage might happen in the coming weeks. So for example, we have a demand surge from week 14 onwards. So I put in some numbers here, say there is a huge demand spike here. And let us see what is the impact and do we have sufficient supply to meet this demand surge. So if you come down, these are our metrics which we need to keep in consideration. So you can see a lost sale. So a lost sale component shows it's a negative, it's a check for the planners, right? So we cannot afford, nobody can afford to lose a sale. So it is a loss of revenue for them. So if we don't meet this demand requirement, we don't have enough product and we'll not be able to sell it. So that is a revenue loss. So in order to avoid this revenue loss, what are the different scenarios possible to solve this? So let's go and see if we do a stock transfer. So say in week 14, there is a there is nothing called a negative inventory. What we're trying to show is that there is a loss of sale. So in order to avoid this loss of sale, how much quantity is required to be pushed in from an alternate inventory location. So say we push in some units here, 50 units in week 14, 45 units in week 15, say 50 here, and say 60 here, 30 here. We go and save this. Now we can see the impact on the customer satisfaction, whether we are able to meet the demand in full. So here you see that there is a customer satisfaction, which is 100% at all the weeks. And there is no loss of sale. So you don't see any negative numbers here. There is no loss of sale. But there is an additional component which is coming in here, which is the transfer cost. So obviously, to move the product from one warehouse to another, there would be an additional cost component required. So the additional cost. So let us say, so we understand that by doing a stock transfer, we can meet this demand surge. So let's park it for now. Let's save this. And now let's move to scenario B. I do the same thing again in scenario B. I go to scenario B and I copy my plan from the original plan. Now I go and do a demand search for my few weeks that I have considered. Say this is my demand surge. Sorry. Now, this time in this scenario, let's try to tackle this situation by doing an increase in production. Now, we need to obviously consider the lead time. So, in order to fulfill a requirement of a demand at a particular week, we'll have to go and pre-plan 4 weeks ahead of time. Since we are already at, say, week 10, and we will not be able to go and do any changes for production in week 11 because that's now, right? So it's not practically possible to do any production changes for the coming week. Even for the subsequent week, since we need to keep in consideration the resource allocation, the raw material procurement, and all the requirements for production, we will not be able to drastically go and change a production plan for the immediate week as well. So what we could do, we could still go and try to increase the demand, and let's see how it's actually working. So let's say from week 12, we do a demand increase, production increase, sorry. So we go and change the production. But what is happening is our demand is quite high and our production capacity is not that high. As you see here, our production capacity of each plant is only 120 units, but our demand is going pretty high. But in order to meet our demand, our solution now here is to do a production increase. So let's go and see what is the impact of doing a production increase. So we'll do some changes here to the production plan. And let's go save it. Now what we can see, the demand is met, but it's not met in full. There is still a loss of revenue, which is coming across from a lot of weeks. That is because the initial weeks, that is of week 14 and week 15, we have not been able to fulfill our demand requirement because there is not sufficient time to go and do a production. So this is actually carried forward. This impact is carried forward to the subsequent weeks. And in order to fulfill that demand as a back order, we would have to go and produce a lot more in the coming weeks. And even though we do that, we will not be able to fulfill a weekly demand requirement, which you can come here and see here in the numbers that our demand satisfaction is not high. A very low demand satisfaction. Demand is not met in full. There is still some loss of revenue. We probably will still lose a lot of sale. And there is an additional production cost. That is because we are overshooting the plant capacity. So here you can see these components that we have overshot by 150. So it's way too much of a load for a production plant to take a high production requirement. So we see that this solution also has a certain impact. Now we'll do the analysis at the end of all the scenarios. So now let's go save this and now go to a third scenario. I go and do the same copy here from the third scenario. I have copied my plan and I will go and change my plan numbers. So from week 14 onwards, I go put my numbers again. So these numbers can actually be gone and copied from your Excel sheet as well. I am doing it for our purpose right now. I'm just doing it as a manual input, but you can also go and copy it from an Excel. You can download it on Excel and do your changes. It's a very Excel-like interface. Okay. So this time what we will do to cater to the demand surge from week 14 and to cater to the immediate requirement, first we will try to do some stock transfers immediately for week 14 and week 15 because we are not able to make a production increase. So we would put in some transfer requests for week 14 and week 15. And we would go and change the production plan, but this time not so drastically. And at least in few weeks, we will try to limit our production to the original plan and in the under the capacity utilization. So now we go and save this, and we will see that we have been able to meet our customer demand in full, and there is no loss of revenue. So you see that the loss of sale, we're not able to see anything here. So we don't foresee any loss of sale, even though there is a cost component of obviously, because if we need to transfer a stock, um, there would be a rate required for the additional transportation. So that is the transfer cost. And there's an additional production cost in the weeks where we have shot up the production, because that is inevitable. So now we save this, and now we get into the most interesting part of this platform. So let's go to a page called scenario analysis, and let's just quickly refresh. So what you see here is our key performance indicators showing for all the three scenarios. So as I discussed earlier, our KPIs here in this case would be a loss of sale, which is not good for any company, for its brand reputation. The customer satisfaction, you mean meet your demand in full, your transfer cost and your additional production cost, definitely, which would have an impact on your total overall finances. So now you can see that in scenario A, where we have taken only the stock transfer, we have been able to meet our customer demand in full. And there's a cost component of $23,500. And in scenario B, unfortunately, we have not been able to meet the customer demand in full. And there we foresee that there would be still a huge revenue loss. And there still would be a little production cost to meet whatever demand we would be able to. Scenario C is a hybrid, is a combination of scenario A and B, where we would be doing some stock transfers and would be doing some production change. And with this situation, with this case, we will be able to meet our customer demand requirement in full. We don't foresee any loss of sale, but definitely there would be some additional cost. But if you see, the cost is not as high as just doing a stock transfer. So as a planner, this analysis of the KPIs and the important parameters gives an outlook of the different possible situations that are put in hand and the different possible solutions to tackle that situation in hand and choose the best fit scenario possible. And certain graphical representations here also show the trends on, in which week, if I just go and do a stock transfer, which week will I be able to meet my demand requirement in full, and so on and so forth. So as a planner, I believe that this is a very impactful page for us, analysis for planners to take better decisions and decisions based on data and not just a guess. It's a conscious decision and a data-driven decision. And here in this case, we would be able, I think, as a planner, the planner would go and choose scenario C because it is meeting all the requirement and it is satisfying the finances as well. Once my scenario is confirmed, I can go and select on confirm A, B, or C. So in this case, if I confirm C, all these values can be pushed back to the original plan values, and subsequently the demand plan, production plan, and inventory plan are revised. And it can also be sent in for a workflow where probably some planners need approval of their seniors for changing the original plan. So that also can be done. So that's about the platform. And Sarbajit, if you could please share the PPT ones.
Sure, Swati, just a bit.
So I hope I have been able to show it in clarity on how we tackle this specific use case that we had in our talk today, which is high surge in demand due to a seasonal shift. So in our case, for winter jackets in South Korea, where we have had a very high demand, unexpected demand surge. What is the data required? So we had our demand plans, we had our production plan, we spoke about inventory, we had lead times, and all the different cost components required. We spoke about the models. So we did 3 scenarios where we simulated a stock transfer, we simulated a production increase, and we did a combination in a hybrid model where we did stock transfer and an increase in the production orders. So did this allow us to take better decisions and allow us to understand the different parameters, make adjustments based on the impact on the parameters? Yes. What were the different KPIs that we studied? We understand that it is very important to not only meet the customer demand in full, but also understand that a loss component is not good for any organization, and also overshooting on our finances also is a good option. So yes, based on the KPIs, we took a good decision. And then once our decision is taken on which scenario to be finalized, we push it to the original plan. So that is our response. So all in all, we have our EPM tool has assisted the planners to take a data-driven decision, an enhanced decision through scenario analysis. And this is where I would like to conclude saying that EPM tools and Just Perform are a very useful tool for any supply chain planners to make good decisions for their company and get the business going. That's it from my side. Thank you so much.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Swati, and thank you, Sarvajit, for such a wonderful, insightful presentation. Your expertise in navigating today's supply chain complexities has been really invaluable. So now is the time we would like to open the floor for questions. We already have received few questions in the chat box. So please feel free, everybody, whether it's about building adaptable supply chains or managing disruptions or scenario building, anything, any questions that you have, please feel free to drop it in the chat box. Meanwhile, I have the first question ready. So the first question is, how easy is it to create and update scenarios in the tool you showed?
Yeah, I'll take this up, Shreya.
Okay.
So I think you saw that in the tool, it is very easy to update, pull in our plan data from the original plans, dynamically change the possible solution, do a what if analysis, and update the different parameters required to cater to a particular problem in hand, and to so the planners can envisage different situations, and they can play in different possible solutions, and based on the analysis and based on the parameters, they can choose the best fit solution. So yes, it is quite flexible for a planner to go and change different scenarios and build in different modules there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Swati. We have another question. You mentioned about tariffs and non-tariff rates as supply chain risk. Can you shed some light on how this risk is affecting supply chain planning?
Okay, I
Maybe
think
Satyajit, you
yeah, I
can
think that refers to the slide about the tariff, right? So I think there is a tariff rate, and the non-tariff are not really rates. The non-tariffs are measures. But what it means essentially is that the countries in a open trade economy, they tend to impose certain tariffs, which sometimes are pretty fine and rational, but sometimes they impose it to protect their domestic markets, or in if I can use the word punish, punish someone who they feel is doing something which is unfair. Like we have heard about this anti-dumping duties recently imposed on Chinese and Korean companies by Indian government. right? So things like that. So the effect on supply chain planning of these tariffs are primarily in about it affects procurement, because what happens is if you're procuring from these nations the raw materials, and if the country where you are getting them into, which means the importing country, it has levied extra taxes and tariffs, or in some extreme cases banned those countries because of embargo or any other, we call it SPS, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, right, which is more secure, safety related rather than commercial. So what happens is you cannot actually procure those things at all. So that is the key supply chain risk, because the you could actually be getting something from a particular country and your supplier is the sole supplier. That means you don't get it from somewhere else at all. Now, if there is a tariff, extra tariff on that specific product or specific country, then what happens is your cost as an importer goes up. If there's a total ban, then you are actually stranded because you don't have any other sources. So I think currently it's very important for every supply chain to look for risks of sole suppliers, right? So that you don't have a single supplier in a particular region, especially which is susceptible, where you're dependent on something very key, right? Because one single step and your entire supply chain is affected. So that is what I meant by the tariff and non-tariff measures. Hope it clarifies.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Sarbajit. We also had another question. Can we receive real-time alerts in the tool for any risk events? I think this has also been answered in the chat box. So we'll take the fourth one. In a make to order process, we can have an option to renegotiate delivery schedule with client when the event occurs. Will scenario be relevant there?
Will scenarios be relevant in that case where you have a make to order? Is that correct? Are
Yeah.
they talking about scenario B, or will scenarios be relevant?
Will scenario be relevant here?
Yeah, I think, I mean, the thing is, if you are in a make to order supply chain, what happens is you are negotiating the contract upfront because there's an order placed which has certain guidelines in terms of the delivery requirements. Now, if there is an event, you can always renegotiate the contract, and I think that is what the question is about. But the renegotiation doesn't come without an impact, because if you are renegotiating the delivery timelines, there could always be effect on your cash flow. There could be effect on, you might have to give discounts to the other person, because somebody's supply is somebody's demand, right? So it just moves on. Like if somebody needs it, as a vendor, I have to give. So it is through the chain. So somebody will have to take the cost of it, because nothing essentially comes free. So even though you are able to renegotiate the terms, you in most cases it is not going to come without a cost. So those are the cases where you'll have to go and play a scenario and see. Even to be able to renegotiate a term, you need to have certain parameters of how you want to negotiate in terms of cost, price, and timing, given the situation you are in, and whether it's a short-term situation versus a long-term situation. So I think scenarios will still be relevant for order-driven organizations, though there is a little bit more leverage in terms of renegotiating with a particular customer rather than a very open market where you cannot really negotiate that well, because it's very like it's not B2B, it's all consumer driven. So sometimes it becomes a little difficult to kind of tackle it. So it might be slightly simpler for an order driven organization, but the need for scenario can still remain.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Sarbajit. We have a lot of other questions popping into the chat box. I would like to read one more. Can we use both Excel and web interfaces with just perform for different user groups within our organization? So this has also been answered in the chat box itself. One more is, how effective is this for medical SCM? Sarbajit, Swati, do you want to take it?
Yeah, definitely. Even in the medical supply chain, it is quite useful where we can plug in the planning data for procurement of various medical equipments and pharmaceuticals, all of that. In fact, we have implemented these tools in the pharma and medical industry as well, and it's quite useful.
Okay. Interesting. I think, yeah, that's about it. I think we've answered all the questions. So I think, thank you, everyone. We would like to wait for another minute and see if we have any other questions popping in. Yeah, I think that's it. So let's conclude the session. So I would like to thank all of you to, especially the speakers, Sarbajit and Swati, for this wonderful session. It was really insightful and I hope it helped everybody. And all the participants also, thank you so much for joining and asking such good questions and making the session so engaging. Special thanks to Just Perform team for being here with us and letting us see the tool, how it is, and how it delivers to people's problems. So thank you, Victoria, for joining on behalf of Just Perform. And thank you, everyone. We are excited to continue this conversation with you all, and we'll be reaching out to you soon to address any remaining questions if you have, or if you want any further insights. And it was a great session, and thank you all again for being a part of this discussion. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to staying connected. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.